In 1937, an Austrian biologist by the name of Ludwig von Bertalanffy initially proposed that there were recurring structures with well-defined patterns that produced well-defined patterns of behavior that operated across all branches of science. And the first time I heard this, I thought it rather ludicrous. And then after I pondered it for a while, I realized that, well, all of the branches of science are a fabrication of man, not nature. So if there is just one nature, why wouldn't there just be one set of structures that interact across all branches of science? As it turns out, Bertalanffy was in fact correct, and not only are there a set of structures that produce these distinct patterns of behavior, there is a relationship amongst those recurring patterns of behavior that unfold from one setting out attempting to accomplish something. So if I set out attempting to accomplish something, I may be setting out to fix a problem or deal with a situation. Any instance where I have a current situation and some alternative desired situation, and the difference between the two of them creates a tension, and I take action attempting to bring balance to that tension and bring one to the other. So I set out to fix a problem or deal with this situation, and as it turns out, based upon resource constraints or other things, there may in fact be rather linear progress toward this goal over time, though as I get closer and closer to the goal, it seems to take more and more effort to move closer to the goal, so that I end up with a situation where the linear progress slows over time, and this is sort of a limits to results scenario. It may in fact be that endeavoring to fix the problem causes a response somewhere else in the interaction which actually requires more effort to fix the problem, and it simply escalates on an ongoing basis, and we end up with an escalation interaction. Or for one reason or another, my efforts to move the current situation toward the desired situation, I actually end up overshooting the goal and then have to expend effort to bring the situation back to the target that I strived for to begin with. Or it may in fact be the case where I overshoot the goal and my efforts to correct in fact undershoot the goal, and then more effort overshoots the goal, and things oscillate back and forth endlessly, and I have a sort of an indecision scenario. Or the effort to fix the problem, I get a sense that I have in fact fixed the problem, though a week, a day, or a week, or a month later, the problem in fact returns for some reason. Generally that happens because I have in fact dealt with the symptoms of the problem and not actually addressed the underlying cause of the problem. Though there are times when addressing the symptoms of the problem, I in fact end up in a dependence scenario where I become addicted to the action taken to deal with the situation. The people on alcohol or drugs, when you become addicted to things, even if the problem was removed, you're in fact still addicted, dependent upon that which you initially employed to deal with the situation. Or a situation where you endeavor to deal with the situation, though because of the time that it takes to move toward the goal or the resources that it takes, one becomes frustrated with the investment or the time and then decides to settle for less than the initial objective. I set out to lose 20 pounds and I've been at it for 2 months and I'm getting extremely frustrated, so I decide that the 10 pounds I lost is enough and I'll go do something else and not worry about it anymore. I mean, the easiest way to solve a problem is to make the current situation the objective, and then there is no problem. The alternative is that I may, in fact, rather than trying to fix a problem, I may, in fact, be trying to promote growth, trying to produce a situation where the action that I take produces a result, and that result encourages me to take more of the same action to create additional growth. Though most people are aware that growth simply doesn't persist forever. It runs into limits one way or another, and that the growth that we undertake to promote can in fact lead to decline elsewhere, so that it's a sort of a success to the successful scenario. I win, you lose. Or partners, two or more individuals or teams or organizations in a position to operate cooperatively to promote growth for one reason or another become adversaries with each other, and we end up with what's referred to as an accidental adversary scenario. The growth that we're intending to promote, in fact, begins to slow over time because it runs into a limit that we weren't aware of. The resources, there may be two or more parties employing the same resources to create results, and those shared resources are in fact limited, so that when the resources are used up, we end up limiting or inhibiting further growth because of the resources being used up. There in fact may be more than one limit to be addressed, so we end up with a sort of an indecision scenario, trying to figure out, well, should I address this limit or that limit? Can I in fact address all of the limits? The situation may be such that the resources required to support growth require an investment and a development over time, and because I have not taken that investment, made that investment up front to develop the resources, I end up limiting my own growth, or the growth of whatever this endeavor is, because there was simply not sufficient capacity developed to be prepared to deal with the requirements of the growth as it appeared. And was there in fact a goal that we were attempting to achieve with the growth that we're promoting, and the time that it takes to achieve that goal? There is in fact a situation very similar to the settle for less scenario, where we have insufficient capacity and we don't continue to strive to develop that capacity because the initial target or standard that we set, we have in fact allowed to slip. Now this is a set of relationships that if we begin to understand that things typically unfold in this way when we set out to fix a problem or promote growth, there are certain things that we can in fact consider and look out for or prepare for, so that we begin to develop approaches to deal with situations with some amount of foresight, as opposed to continually running into the unintended consequences scenario that I talked about in the previous videos. Now, that's not to say that I believe that it's possible to develop an approach to a situation so that you can be absolutely certain that there will be no unintended consequences. And that's sort of an impossibility. So the idea is to simply apply enough understanding and forethought so that the approach that you put together continues to look for things that are likely to happen, and modify the approach on an ongoing basis to deal with what would have been unintended consequences had you not planned to deal with them, and therefore you are more likely to have your endeavors turn out the way that you wanted them to. So I hope this has been interesting, and I'll see you. Oh, and there's a link to the discussion on this page and on the video if you'd like to share your thoughts about Do you have personal experiences that relate to this unfolding? We'd love to talk about them. So either on this page, click that button to go to the discussion, or the link that's in the video itself. And I'll see you shortly in another video. Bye.